Well, for many of us, running from place to place and keeping a full schedule, a busy calendar, meeting to meeting to meeting, makes us feel alive. It can make us feel important. You know the response. You ask somebody, how are they doing? They say, busy. How are you doing? Busy. How do you feel right now? I bet some of you, you're watching this and you're looking back on your week and you realize it's been really, really busy. I've heard an acronym before that busy, B-U-S-Y, is being under Satan's yoke. That often when we feel our calendar so full, we don't have time to do what God has asked us to do, which is rest. So I want you to hear from this next story, someone running such a full schedule that they come to a breaking point, to the brink, needing to find something else, needing to find a solution. Watch Pete's story.
So a couple of years back, I was just going through like a really difficult season in my life, specifically at work. I was essentially doing 2 jobs. And really the motivation behind that was, I want to get ahead. I want to climb the ladder. I always left. I could have done this. Should I have left? I should have stayed even longer so that I could have finished this up. I would go to bed and I couldn't fall asleep right away, even though I was tired. I was so tired. Work was just in the back of my mind and in the front of my mind. So the anxiety was just rampant. I just could not rest. I wasn't involved at home. I wasn't talking to my wife, and I know it was pride. And it later became apparent that it was to my detriment. I started experiencing symptoms, heart palpitations, and lost so much weight rapidly, and just thinking, what's going on with me medically? And that increased anxiety. I finally said, okay, I gotta go see the doctor. Doctor confirmed the diagnosis of, hyperthyroidism and said, your immune system's essentially attacking itself. The options I was presented were really drastic, like surgery or radiation therapy and lifelong medicine. And she said that these types of symptoms and specific disease and autoimmune disease can be caused, and more than likely was caused, by a huge amount of stress and anxiety. And I remember just falling on my knees that night and just saying, God, I need you, and I'm sorry. Just confessing just how strong I thought I was, just how naive my thoughts were about, I can do this. One of the things that I prayed was just, Lord, may you give me that peace that surpasses understanding. I received so much support from my wife. Saying, we're gonna fight this together. My parents and the community around me was just so vital, just so vital to speak out and say, hey guys, I'm in a really difficult part right now, and I'm honestly really scared. So encouraging to know that you're not gonna face, backlash, and on the contrary, your people are ready and willing to help. So I'm definitely a lot more aware of rest and what it means to rest. I make a point to be home for dinner. I'm being more aware of when the anxiety kind of creeps up a little bit. I kind of pause and want to, automatically try to give that to the Lord right then and there. It hasn't been easy since then. You still have your struggles, but I just wouldn't be the person I am right now without having gone through that difficult season.
Like so many of us, Pete continued to run faster. He liked the affirmation that he received from the world, but he came to a breaking point. He realized that his body wasn't made to not recharge. This doesn't work for anything. It doesn't work for our cars. They run out of gas if we don't refuel them. It doesn't work for our cell phones. If we don't charge them or plug them in at night, if we don't connect them to a source of energy, then they will die and leave us stranded. And we are the same way. God made us to rest. He even turns out the lights for us. He forces us in an agrarian culture, which the Bible was written in, would be forced to stop once the sun goes out. But for us, we have lights and we have other methods and means, and there's a connection to our physical rest and our spiritual rest. There's a connection to this idea of Sabbath and this idea of sleep. And so what does it look like for us to stop and take time to rest? Jesus says, come to me, all of you who are weary, in Matthew chapter 11, and he says, I will give you rest, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light. He says my teaching is easy because he's going to be our strength in the midst of that teaching. And the burden that he gives us is light because Jesus, he designed the world. He knows how to live it best. And he commands us, he calls us to stop. What's really dangerous in the midst of continuing to go fast and continuing to excel and continuing to give the gas on life is that you can get addicted to not resting. This actually happened to me as I kept adding to my plate, kept doing more and more, taking on more speaking engagements, working longer hours. And when it came time to stop, my mind just kept going and I didn't know how to turn it off. And I would wake up at 3 a.m. and the thoughts continued to come and spiral and fast, and then I couldn't sleep. And this is why it's so important for us to create these little breaks, these little stops, these moments where we acknowledge who God is and that he holds our world together. I want you to continue to learn that peace comes from rest as you listen to Destiny's story. Watch this.
Over a year ago, I went back to work for the first time full time. I had a 5 and a 2-year-old, and then I was also in grad school. My time with the Lord was something I had, but it was just something that I did. I don't feel like my heart was like all there. And then I would get my son up to school, get my daughter to daycare, whoever was taking her that day. I was staying up late, cooking dinner, doing homework. At that time, I began to pick up so much, and it was affecting my relationship with people, me not wanting to go anywhere or do anything. Even with my husband and my children, I just didn't feel like I had what it took to love them in the way they needed. And then a few weeks later, I found out I was 8 weeks pregnant. Things just became very overwhelming very fast. I kind of felt like life had been interrupted. I had these plans of what the next 6 months of my life was gonna look like and what I was gonna be pursuing. I pretty much had kind of had this vision of where I was gonna go, and before I know it, I was just kind of like rock bottom, just kind of try to force my way through and deal with everything that was coming with me. So my husband did know about the anxiety and how I was feeling throughout all of this. He actually kept insisting that I go speak with someone, whether it be at our church or get outside counseling. He was very persistent. I did take that time out to speak with our counselor, our church counselor, with what to do concerning all of this and how to overcome anxiety. My pregnancy definitely pushed me into the arms of the Lord, just because I didn't know where to go. I didn't know what to do. I have learned to prioritize what can wait. My priority as far as time with the Lord changed significantly throughout this time. I mean, it was no longer just me having a morning chit chat with him. I learned how to stop and just listen to the voice of the Lord. There was a change in my family. There was a change in my children and how I perceived my job. I talked different. My perspective was different. And I believe it was because I began to know the Lord in this new way. It's communing with the Lord, it's walking with him, and it's resting in him and abiding in him, which has come to be something that I look forward to every single day. I've learned don't try and do more than I can, but just really rest in knowing that, okay, if he's carried me this far, then sure enough, he can lead me to where I'm headed next.
Destiny, like so many of us, got busy doing a lot of good things, but it didn't take the weightiness of being busy away. God calls us to rest. In 1 Peter 5 verse 7, Jesus says that we're to cast our anxiety on him because he cares for us. He says that God opposes the proud but gives grace to the humble. He says that we are to humble ourselves, therefore, under the mighty hand of God, and that God will exalt us. But so many of us, through the pursuit of good things in this life, we're trying to exalt our life. I've heard it said, well, that if we try to do God's job, that he will do ours. That if we try to exalt ourselves, that God will humble us. That verse goes on to say that your enemy, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour. You probably haven't given much thought that Satan is trying to take you out through your busyness, but this is a key part of his plan. When God calls us to rest, the enemy tries to make us busy. And so often you and I are carrying more weight than we were meant to. I can remember every year setting up for a retreat, and what we would do is we'd have to put out these folding chairs, and so different people can carry different weights. Some have a chair under each arm, and some people are football players or big weightlifters are carrying 27 chairs, and these are metal chairs, and it never fails that at some point in this venture of setting out chairs that I hear this loud crash. The chairs hit the floor, and on the concrete, the aluminum chairs make this loud crashing noise, and everyone turns over to see who dropped the chairs. And there's really only one reason that someone drops the chairs. It's because they carried more than they were supposed to. So often you and I are wearing our busyness as a badge of honor when we weren't meant to be as busy as we are. That we were meant to, on a regular basis, to stop and to see God as God. He says, be still and know that I am God in Psalm 46. That we're to humble ourselves under his mighty hand. We're to resist the devil so that he would flee from us. And to do that, we need to take some time to be with him, to be by still waters, to slow down. As you break into your small groups, I want you to discuss what it's going to look like for you to be still this week. How will you prioritize rest this week, both spiritually and physically? Would you do that now?